It's a pleasure for me to introduce to you Amelie Constant. Amelie is one of us. She's a research affiliate here at Penn. Before coming to Penn, she was a visiting research professor at Princeton University. She was also program director of the migration at ISA, and she's co-editor of the ISA Journal of Migration. She has a very active research agenda about issues of migration in rich countries and in European countries. And she was trained as an economist, and she brings a sort of a dynamic look at migration with people moving back and forth, which is something that we tend to forget, and we still have to think about migration as a one-time event or movements in between. She has a very active professional presence. She's associate editor of the Journal of Migration and Society, and she was elected member of the European Academy of Sciences for her outstanding achievements as researcher. And this is not the first time that Amelie presents at the Colloquium. She presented before in a paper that I think got accepted in the Moore. Yeah. So so this is a good way to share her research, and we bring her back to. So help me welcome Amelie Constant.
So much. This is a fantastic opportunity for me to present this work. It's very current. I'm still working on it, running regressions. So I would appreciate any comments you have, and please go ahead and ask questions while I talk. Yes, I presented before. It's sort of the same data set, but before it was the typical migration paper with immigrants, and now I'm looking at natives who leave their country. So the title is "We Won't Be Back," and that will make sense at the end when you see the conclusions. And basically, I study transitions, how native individuals leave their country and they go abroad, and whether they return or not. So can you hear me now? It's okay. Just to place this paper, this belongs to the literature of about immigration of natives from their home country and how they go abroad or return or repeat migration and selection issues. But it differs in three very important aspects from other papers on migration. First, the home country from which the natives leave is a very advanced, wealthy, and peaceful country that scores high on every happiness index. And it has a very advanced or generous welfare system. Second, we study emigration, which means when people exit, and we study that at the point where they exit the home country. Usually migration studies look at immigrants while they are already in the host country, and then we try to say something about them. And the third one is that we compare those who exit, the immigrants, at the point they exit, to their fellow stayers. And this is different than the standard assimilation literature where you compare immigrants to natives. And the other thing, just to place it a little bit theoretically, this paper belongs to the locational choice theory, how people choose different locations to be at. And in the background, we have the utility maximization model, economic model with this budget, which means that whenever people make choices and they choose something and they forgo the other choice, they do that because the choice they choose gives them the highest utility. They maximize their utility. Now, I'm using a mathematical system. It's called the Markov chain model or Markov switching model. So this is a standard model that system that looks at transitions from one state to the other based on some probability rules. So a typical example, probably you hear it on TV, is, with the weather. So what is the probability that tomorrow will be sunny, given that the state today is rainy, right? So how do we transition from one system to the other? And what's the probability? I mean, we will be tomorrow, we will be to tomorrow, but what would be the probability that we go there? Okay? And what characteristics will play a role into that? So a basic or fundamental property of the Markov process, the first order that I'm using, is that there is, it's only the current state, time t, that influences the next state at t plus 1. It's sometimes called memoryless. So the other states, the previous states, do not play a role in that. And basically, this is the model. So you have two states, it's kind of oval things, right? I put Norway and abroad because I will be talking about Norway, I forgot that. So when you are here, say this is your initial state, right? So each year, we suppose that immigrants decide what to do, right? So they're here and they say, what will I do next year? I will stay in Norway. So this is the transition probability. It's not really a transition because you stay in the same country, but it's considered a transition. It has a probability. There is a probability attached to it that you will stay here. The next year, you might stay, from Norway, transition and go abroad. So this is the other probability that you go abroad. And once you are abroad, then again, you decide every year. So you may decide that you want to stay abroad, and that would be the probability P11, that's the transition probability. Or the year after, you might decide that you want to return. So this is the whole idea behind the paper. And as you see, there are 4 transition probabilities. We have to solve for those. Yes.
Question. So a property of Markov chains is that they're memoryless.
Yes.
Whereas migration decisions, I think, are very much not memoryless. Like, once you stayed there for 2 years, the probability of migrating is a lot lower than having stayed only for 1 year. And if you stayed at a place for 10 years, presumably your annual probabilities are lower. So that is kind of a non-Markovian property. And I was wondering how you reflect that.
You have a point. I hope that I will convince you at the end. But yes, it is a fundamental property of the Markov I'm using. But when we say there are other things that influence that decision, it's true. But it's not necessarily where you were 3 years ago, as much as your characteristics at the time we look at you, right? So it's like I see people every year and I see them when they leave Norway. I'm at the airport and there I know all of their characteristics. And so I model the transition probabilities, which will end up doing a logic, given all those characteristics. So these characteristics that are embedded in the person play a role in the transition probability. But yes, where they were 3 years ago, it's irrelevant for the model. You're right.
Anyway, well,
I acknowledge that, but we can.
Two identical individuals, one who has stayed in the country for 10 years, the other one who arrived yesterday, have differential probabilities of migrating. In your model, they have identical probabilities.
Yeah. And we can talk about it later as well. But yes, so these 4 probabilities, so the first, as you see on the first line says, then how you model this probability. You say the probability P sub 01, which is the probability that from state 0, you go to state 1, equals the state equals where you are the next period as t plus 1. So this should be 1 because the system goes either 0 or 1. Given that you are at time 0, you are at 0 at time t. And then the 4 probabilities I can put in a matrix form which is called the probability matrix, right? And one of the, again, fundamental properties is that the sum, each row is sum up to one, because see these and these two sum up to one, and these other two sum up to one, because these two states to stay in Norway or move abroad are mutually exclusive. And also these are the two exhaustive states. There are no other states. And I don't consider people from here going to other states and then back. So so we have this transition probability, and if you solve the system, then you end up with two probabilities. So if you know two probabilities, you solve the system because they sum up to one, right? So basically at the end, it suffices to just estimate two of the probabilities. And this is very convenient because we can parameterize using logistic regressions and estimate the probabilities. Besides the transition probabilities, the Markov chain has a state probability distribution. So this is the transition probability, but being at each state, which is sort of like the converging state, right, has also a probability. So the probability that you are in each state is this pi. So it's pi 0 and pi 1. And so the steady state distribution of the Markov chain satisfies this equation that pi equals pi times p, and p is the matrix, the transition matrix. And then again, because of the conservation equation, 1 equals, so the 2 pi's must be equal to 1. Then we can also solve this equation and solve for steady state probabilities. And they are like that. You know, if you plug in this equation plus this to solve it, you get a system of two equations with two unknowns, which is indeterminate. So you need the 1 plus 1 equals pi 0 plus pi 1. And then we end up with these, which are the steady state probabilities. We call them the Markovian steady state probabilities. And that's it. And now we go to the empirics. So I'm using Norway. I always wanted to have, you know, some different special data. And Norway is one of these countries that has this special data. Only a handful, I think the other Nordic countries have this kind of data, and maybe Holland, I think. But what does this mean is that the moment you are born in Norway, you have you are registered. So whatever information the government has about you is official information. It's not self-reported. So when you're born, you know, they know you're born, they know your sex. Then when you're working later on in life, your salary or your income or whatever you earn is reported again by your employers to the registers, right? So whatever information the registers have is official. And so we suppose that is, you know, better, it has less error than if it's self-reported. Or for example, if you have money in the bank, then it's the bank that reports how much money you have to the registers. I know it sounds crazy. For some countries it would be, I know the Germans would be, you know, up and down for privacy issues, but this is how this country is. And they respect the privacy, and they're very, very strict with the data. So the second fantastic advantage is that this data include the entire population, right? It's not a representative sample. It's everybody in Norway. And the third one is that they have information of the exit and entry of people. So say start with natives, first year a native wants to leave the country, they register that they're living. And they have to be living more than 6 months, and they have to have they should not have attachments in the country. For example, what I want to say is that sometimes the government might say, no, you don't qualify, you can go abroad, but you don't qualify to be registered as an immigrant because your husband is here, your children are here, you know, your property is here. So no, you stay, you know, as far as we're concerned, you're not gone because, you know, if you're gone, it's like you don't pay taxes, but we want you to pay taxes. And so the taxes part is the very important part behind all these records and information because, and that's why people have an incentive to report that they exit. So if they leave, you know, they will not be paying taxes, for example. Okay, and so when they come back, they also register, and we know that they are come back. They're back, and we know their characteristics when they come back. So basically, I have selected all Norwegians or natives. I can show you later how they classify them, but you can look up to the 3rd generation. So you have native Norwegians who have grandparents and great-grandparents who are all Norwegians. But natives are also, for example, 2nd generation immigrants who were born in the country from foreign parents, or they could be born to native parents, but the grandparents are foreign, you know, and so there are several combinations. But I only choose then native Norwegians who were born native. Oh, sorry, they could also be born abroad to native parents, and that says that they're also native. And so I end up, and I choose this broad age, and then I end up with 4,300,000 Norwegians. Norway at this point is just over 5 million people. So I have everybody who's native, and the rest is immigrants. So you see that the really vast majority of Norwegians stay, right? These are stayers throughout the panel, stayers, not just 1 year, that they stay throughout the 23 years I have. And non-stayers are, you know, a small percentage, but it's good enough to do some analysis. This is just to give you a flavor of the individuals we have. So men and women are just about the same, 50%. And when you look at where they go out of those who exit, the highest percentage, 45.7%, is to other Nordic countries. This is the classification I made up, these clusters of countries, because I know where they go. And so I grouped countries together. So Nordic countries have very, you know, they're very close. They have similar languages. They share culture. They share, you know, geographic location. They have a free entry and exit among them. A Swedish person can go to Norway and start working immediately, and vice versa. So there's no visa required. For the European countries, it's something similar again, although Norway is not in the EU. And then I was surprised that we have USA and Canada, about 12%. This is something you never see in immigrants. You know, immigrants, they never have this enough people in that category. So I was very surprised, and I thought it was interesting to just group these countries together. They do require some visa, and they're further away than Norway. So just to get the flavor of that, and yes.
So you have that 3.4 leave Norway?
Yes,
And
so
what percent of that returns?
very small
Oh,
percent,
because Norwegian returning from that's among the people that return. No?
yes.
So, what's that percentage?
So I
You don't have
cannot
it.
give you a percent right now. I don't have it in my head. But what this shows is that out of those who exit, this is where they go, what they choose. And out of those who are abroad, this is the percentage they come back from each of these clusters. So out of those who went to Nordic countries, 21% returns.
Oh, really? As I thought. Oh, okay.
That's
Okay,
what this
okay,
means.
that's what I was looking for. Yeah.
So in other countries, of course, it's everybody else, it doesn't matter, but say from Southeast Asian countries, from whoever went there, 13% come back, something like that.
Oh, okay. I thought that was the percentage across from everybody that returned.
No,
Okay, that's what I was.
One more question, so. Because your age range is 17 and older, so I assume among this, what do you do with students, with those who leave the country for
They are in there.
education and come back? So they're included in all these numbers?
yes. So in the regression, you'll see I have a category that says in education, which means they are students. Okay, so this is the panel data. I end up with 74 million people. That makes it very difficult to run regressions. And just again, to give you flavors, is the clock is running. There are a few, so this is a difference between the stayers, the first column, which are stayers throughout the panel. And the non-stayers, which means sometimes we see them in Norway, sometimes we see them abroad, sometimes, they come and go. And there are a few little differences. And this is a classification by their transition status. So these are only the non-stayers, right? And we have 4 transitions. So we have, it's not really transitions, it's the year we see them. So this is the mean, the average over all the years. When they stay in Norway, when they, the year they emigrate, they say, they declare we're going. And this is when they're abroad. And this is when they return. So there are a few, like you said, the years since migration. So the years abroad, on average, are 3 for those who stay, but those who are abroad, they have almost 12 years that they've spent abroad. And now these are the 2 logistic regressions. As I said, it suffices to only estimate 2. So within each regression, we have a bunch of theoretical variables, demographics, controls, and I run it so that it gives me the odds ratios. No, you hate odds ratios, but that's what I have now. And basically these logics say the P01 means that the probability, the logic probability that you emigrate and you are abroad tomorrow, right, at time t+1, given that you are in Norway today, as opposed to not staying in Norway, which is the foregone choice. Yes.
On the previous slide, I did not understand for the stairs column, they average 10 years abroad. But they were stayers. I thought they did not go up.
This is the year or years. We see them as stayers. These capture every time they decide to do something. These are the 4 transitions.
Right, but if you stay in Norway and only stay in Norway.
But it's only maybe 1 year or 2 years. Maybe you are in Norway 2 years.
See, this is for a year.
Yes,
You stay.
yeah. They're not real stayers. They stay, but then they exit, they return. Yes,
Given snapshot time, given you're looking at it now, and they're not able to go. This is what's correct.
Yes. Okay, so here are the results, the odds ratios. And these are selected characteristics. And this is to anywhere, so this is a probability. The first column is the probability to emigrate to any destination. And the second column is the return from anywhere. I have run also sub-logits for specific destinations. So the first row in this table is the actual predicted transition probabilities that the model gives you, right? After you run the logic, you say predict P1 and you get that probability. So P01, which is the probability to leave Norway and go abroad, is 0.0016. And the probability to return, which is given that you are abroad, what's the transition that you come back? It's 0.0913. And then the selected characteristics, so I look at human capital, employment status, and earnings. Clearly, the more educated people, especially if they have a university degree or more than a university degree, are more likely. So we interpret these results, if they're more than one, it means more likely. It means that the odds of going abroad are higher. If it's less than one, means that the odds are lower. And if it's one, basically it's the same. And when they are in education, we see that they're less likely to exit. So for the first column, prior immigration experience. So for example, I got my data starting in 2000, but I could see that their status in 2000 was already emigrated. This means that they have been abroad before, okay? So this account, I created this variable to capture that. I don't know for how long they have been abroad before, and if they have done it many times before, but I just try to capture this like a prior experience. And how many years they have spent abroad is also, increases the odds to go abroad. Employment is amazingly very important. So those who are employed, self-employed, or even unemployed, compared to those not in the labor force, are less likely to leave. Remember that in Norway, they have very good unemployment benefits. Unemployment is not a stigma, and it's not an issue. If you become unemployed, you can roll back in the labor market without a problem. So I also look at the labor union membership, which is very high in Norway, and it for some reason, it increases the probability to exit. And then when we look at the earnings, so the earnings, I created 10, 11 brackets from 0, which would be mostly students or, those out of the labor force, to earn 10, which is the top 1% of the income distribution. And I want to say also about the earnings that Norway has a very egalitarian system, so to speak, so that their income distribution is very close to the mean. They don't have the outliers we have here in the US, like the very poor and the very, very rich. So it's amazing to me that we still find differences depending on where you are in the distribution. So we see that the low earnings or incomes, I call them incomes because it includes pensions, things like that. So low incomes and high incomes are more likely to exit. Around the middle, we see some people who do not exit. The middle income is earned 6.
Do you know anything about the labor union membership? Like what are the labor unions? Is this like oil and gas, construction?
Oh, them have unions, but where they are the majority of them, you ask, I'm not sure I
Yeah,
know.
I mean, makes sense if you're like in oil and gas, that you would leave to go working in another country or construction. You have a specific skill trade that's in.
That's a good point. I should look at that. Like course relate, industry with, or occupation with labor union.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's like Saudi Arabia.
Yeah. So that could make a difference, yeah.
Do you have other demographic controls like age, marriage, and all? They're accounted here.
Yeah, there. I don't know how to jump to the last one.
I'll fix it.
Sorry. Sorry. So I used everything I had available.
Oh,
Further down after the thank you.
So for example, if they have children or, like, or partner in the, whatever they migrated to.
Thank you so much. So I have, yes, I have whether they're gender, age, if they're third generation Norwegians, if they died during the panel, married, number of children, high school, number of years abroad, self-employed, earnings, if they have wealth. Wealth means capital gains. They receive government transfers and a bunch of industry things, and then the period controls, yeah. So.
I'm sorry.
Sorry.
You got it, you got it.
There we go. So, and for the return then, we see that, and everything is highly significant, and this is because I have, 74 million people. So here we see that while the very well-educated exit, they also come back. So that shouldn't be a concern of Norway that educates its people for free, for example. But when we go, and the employment also is very important when you are abroad. So if you work abroad, you're less likely to return. But when it comes to income, we see again this bipolar distribution. So the poor, the bottom brackets and the top brackets are less likely to return. And they're the middle people, maybe we call them middle class. So I thought that this is fascinating, and this what goes to the title, that it's the rich, but not the rich in sense of wealth, because you see when they have wealth, which is stocks and bonds and things like that, they're more likely to return. But it's when their earnings are high that they are less likely to return. So basically, this is the first conclusion regarding the selection of people. Yes.
And I'm just curious, are you measuring this in T or T+1, each of these things? So like if someone is not in education today, but leaves to go be educated tomorrow, is that mean
It's
that you're?
taken care of, yes.
But would-
Because it's a panel, so every year.
Yeah.
We know every year.
Yeah, so this is, but you're saying that, so from 0 to 1 would be, I'm in Norway and I go abroad. Does that mean that you're measuring these specific attributes in the year that you are before you go?
Before you go.
Before you go,
At the
and
point you
then,
exit, yes.
and then coming back, is it
At the point
at the
you're coming back.
you're coming back, so it's in T if you're going from 0 to 1, and it's T+1 if it's from 1 to 0, right? Okay.
Just wanted to make sure I understand your population coverage here. So you said that the Norwegian system continues to track people who are abroad as long as it continues, regards them to still be citizens. And the reason for that is that Norway wants them to continue to tax them, is that right? So the high income people here are abroad and they're still paying taxes back to the Norwegian system, is that?
I suppose it depends on the, what is this, agreements that countries have. I'm not sure exactly how it works. I've lived in Germany and I know the US and Germany has an agreement that if you earn, up to 80,000 euros, you don't pay taxes in the US, right? But you pay after that. So it depends how the Norwegian government has classified you, if they have given up on you, that you are an immigrant or another. Sorry, I don't know exactly the specifics.
Everybody
of that.
here is tethered to Norway in some way. The Norway has said, we're gonna continue tracking you because you have something
Yeah,
holding you here.
yeah,
And any assets or.
yeah,
So, but so people who have truly cut bait, followed here, they may have a different income distribution.
yeah. Yes,
A question about entitlement. So one striking thing about Norwegians when I studied fertility was always how keenly they're tuned into entitlement eligibility, like timing your kids in a way that you get eligible to benefits and not missing out by having second child to. And so, and entitlements are a big part of the Norwegian government or transfer system. How do they figure into that? So I guess the argument is, right, the day you become eligible to certain entitlements, presumably reduces a lot your immigration probability because migrating means you give up on entitlements.
however, it's a very small number, it's very close to one, but it's still, when you receive government transfers, it still comes up as a positive.
But I'm
So,
not meaning receiving a big entitled to the future, like my pension entitlement, right? I'm not receiving it now, but I have a claim to a large discounted value of transfers. Lifetime health insurance is another one, right? If I'm in Norway, I get close to free health insurance. Over a life cycle, that discounted value is enormous. And I suspect there's some eligibility criteria. You need to have worked X many years to become eligible.
yeah,
And so, anyway, I suspect there are lots of these entitlements that must have some form that if you've worked long enough or been long enough in Norway, you become eligible. And my intuition tells me eligibility hugely reduces your immigration problem. Unless you're sufficiently high earner and the entitlements are a small fraction of it.
yeah, but you have to think as a native, they're not, they're not required to stay for a while. This is for immigrants. Immigrants don't have access when they leave the country, they don't have access to welfare benefits immediately. But these are natives, so within their country, they have immediate access. Is that what you're saying?
But for fertility, I mean, I know for fertility, for instance, right, you need to have some record of having worked in Norway to be eligible
yeah.
to very generous system. So either you migrate before you're eligible, or the day you
Right.
become eligible to have a child, you don't want to move to the US,
Yes.
right, in the anyway, this
That's,
type of thing.
yeah, that's.
So, and there are many entitlements along these lines that you're not just being Norwegian is not sufficient. You need to be Norwegian and have
With other things.
contributed to the pension system.
Of course,
Because
yeah.
it's sufficient.
So, and the other thing is that when they move to other Nordic countries, I think they also have access to those benefits there because they're very similar and they have agreements between them. So, basically for a Norwegian going to Sweden, from what I know, is you just change to a, lower tax system and yeah, and everything else is basically the same, right? And that's one of the points I make, why would they go abroad? Because I forgot to say, that's what it was understanding, but Norway has one of the highest salaries, earnings they offer. It's really top. It's top in the GDP per capita, it's top in many things. So then the question is, if you earn so much money, right, so much more than we do here, why would you leave your country? And the answer is that the cost of living is so expensive and the taxes are so expensive because they also finance the welfare system, that maybe this is a reason why the the top earners are willing to relocate. They earn maybe a little less, but they pay lower taxes and, the loaf of bread is maybe, less expensive.
Last.
Or a glass of wine, yes. So this is the first conclusion. And this we talked about that. Here I also mentioned that males increase, but only slightly to emigrate, and they increase to return. So it looks like men are a little bit more migratory. Age, marriage, and children. Children definitely keep people, in the place where they are. They are less likely to exit and they're less likely to return. So conclusion number 2 is to look at the transition probabilities, right? The P00, etc. So here I have again, so this is like from state T to T+1. So you are in Norway and you stay in Norway. So P00, and because they sum up to 1, right? The model gave me this probability, the logic. The logic gave me this probability. This 1 minus this, I get the probability to stay. And this is from being abroad to return to Norway or stay in Norway. Already we see that the transition probabilities to move, right, they're the smallest. So the transition probability to stay is the highest, and the probability to stay abroad is also the highest. And the third conclusion is to estimate the steady state, which is sort of like the long run stationary conditions if the system converges, right? So these are the pies. And so this is what this means. This is my population in person years. So if you divide these numbers with the total population, you get these pies. These are the pies that they're from raw data, right? And this is what I get. I get here the probability to, this is not the transition probability, this is the probability to be at state 0, right? The steady state probability to stay in Norway is very high. And this is to stay abroad. And then these, the stars, are from this system of equations I told you that when I got the transition probabilities P and I plug them into these equations, I get the Markovian probabilities to stay in a state. And so I don't know if this is convincing to you, but what I find is that these probabilities are very close to the data. And so I believe that maybe this specification of the Markov chain model is good in capturing the immigration behavior and return behavior of Norwegians in the 21st century. Again, Norway is the state of the system where, the system will stay. It has the highest probability to occur. And, but staying abroad is, a little bit something. So basically, Norwegians never leave, and if they go abroad, they rather stay abroad. I think this is all I have. Yes. I'm not confused.
I was just skeptical and you can believe that, right? Your Markov chain basically just have 2 states, like in the country, outside of the country. But the flow of migration changes, average duration, the current migrant or the current person is in the country or out of the country, and you're not capturing. So I think the estimates you do, the micro level estimates, they are what they are, but they're very much non-Markovian. They have exactly the sense, earnings change over the life course, your time in country or outside of the country changes as a result of this. So And that the Markov chain, because of just having two states, doesn't reflect that. So I think there remains the inconsistency that I pointed out. You estimate the models you do, they very much reflect that migration decisions are a function of, a bunch of life course changes, how long you've been in country, out of country, your earning profile that changes with the marriage, anyway, all these characteristics. And then the Markov chain is just two-state thing, because you can't expand it to the gazillion states. In theory, you could have gazillion states of matrix, right? And capture that, but that doesn't make it viable. So anyway, my concern persists, at least my opinion.
Have you thought about thinking about this sequentially, like emigrate the first time, then you follow them, return the first time, then subsequent immigration, something like that. You have the longitudinal data. It seems to me that your project is about immigration and return. So another way of looking at this is like you can look at who leaves Norway the first time. Then the first decision is affected by things that are different from the second decision, which it connects with this. And so you can look at the first immigration, first return, but then it's conditional of having left. It's conditional, you return. Have you thought about thinking in those terms?
Actually, no, that's a good idea. I have to run.
More in the sense of an event history, sequential decision making, and which might, it seems to, I mean, from my perspective, it's more intuitively how things happen over the life course. Then you can have transitions before the first decision, transitions between the first and the return, or things like that. Then, because what you have different, if you think about this in terms of risks, and so everybody's in Norway, is born in Norway. The first risk is to emigrate. To be a risk of returning is conditional of having emigrated. So it could be a different way of looking at this.
And that would take care of I think, of what HP's concern was.
It solves that discussion.
Yeah.
You could actually just take your framework, you can build based on the X number of transition probabilities.
Yeah, which is a Markov model too.
Up to 9, some small, is 5. One time model. Still gets, the rows will still get summed to 1, and few days, what's the probability that you have 7 years, 1 move, goes through transition states. And it would be an interesting way to see if anything changes, basically.
Yeah,
If there's a characteristics in the data that might explain.
I should definitely try it.
Basically, people who get in and out, or things, go once and transition problem.
But then I don't. Okay.
People done this in
Still
criminology, I can send you a paper where.
Okay,
people
that would be
have
great,
used it
yeah.
for a process, whole decision probability
Yeah.
like that.
I'm happy for that. I know when I presented that paper without any of the Markovian behind it, just ran the logic. Nobody said anything. They accepted that immigrants have a probability to go back and forth. But when I tried to kind of fit it into some kind of theoretical model, people always, it's one of the, criticism of models. So that would be a great way to show if my results are robust or something.
You actually model that, you could actually put it in a self-exciting, like intercept based, because if they move X number of times, that I could assume that the probability is greater from first move to second, third.
Yeah.
So don't bring that.
Although technically, the first move is when I see them.
Yeah,
I don't know if they had before. Yeah. So for example, in my data, I saw the first year in 2000, they were emigrated. And they were 17 years old. So they were born there and then they stayed abroad with the parents, and then they come back. So there were all these years were gone. But
Yeah, that's it, that's something to address, but it's like a left and sensory, you have sensory. But, yeah, I'm thinking in terms of the event history.
thank you so much. I'll try that. Yeah, more questions.
Anyway,
Yes.
so, one more question.
I have a question. Thank you so much. I really appreciate understanding this is a vastly quantitative study with national data. It's not self-reported. This is a lot to comb through. They did a really good job with it. My question might be a facsimile of the last two questions. My ears are not what they used to be. I couldn't hear super great. Sorry if I'm repeating myself. If the answer is, we just talked about that, that's okay. But I'm curious to know, as you were combing through the data from 2020 to 2023, did you notice any peaks or valleys in immigration, however small, that might correspond or correlate to historical events such as regional conflicts, big swings in socio-political structures in countries of immigration, or the pandemic that happened? And if so, to what extent might you, based on your understanding of Norwegian culture and society, be able to speculate on what's causing the peaks and valleys in immigration patterns?
So I tried all last night to run the marginals so that I show you the actual probability through the years. And it just, I never got the results. So the only thing I can show you is a graph based on the raw data, the emigration rate and the return rate. So I don't know how I do that, and
If you go to the bar and the PowerPoint, and then you click there.
yeah. So this is the immigration rate from raw data from 2000 to 2022.
So I'll see, is that on screen?
I'll fix it. I think you're clicking out of display mode.
There you go. So this is what I, so it's, I kind of like it because it shows fewer and fewer people exit. And we know that, they mostly stay, they don't like to leave. We have a dip in 2014-15. I don't know how to explain that, how to put them into, yeah. Maybe if after the pandemic, 2021, it seems like it goes up. But Norway actually was really not much affected. They were all vaccinated and they didn't have, big issues, and, especially with the other Nordic countries, it was okay to move around. So, because these are natives, right? They didn't have to go to.
Yeah.
And then this is the return rates, again,
The flat, yeah.
based on the raw data.
Thank you so much. This at least starts to answer my question. I appreciate it. Yeah.
But you see, what's fascinating to me is that when we do the logins, we stay at the, the self-selection of the characteristics. And we hardly ever look at the transition probabilities, which are very, very low. So yes, there is a lot of selection, and yes, the rich leave, but it's a very small number of them. So we have to put things in perspective sometimes. Yeah.
Okay, any other questions? Okay, thank you.